Hello everyone, Clifford Bennett, Chief Economist at ACY Securities, and big news today. We were right when for the last 2 years we actively critiqued the Reserve Bank of Australia. In fact, I was probably the most outspoken senior economist or strategist in Australia saying that the RBA was underperforming. I actually advocated the dismissal of the governor and the board, that they had to be replaced because monetary policy mismanagement was endemic to the Reserve Bank of Australia. And if you understand the Peter principle, which is the theory that people are promoted from within until they reach their level of incompetence and there they sit for a long time, that really does describe the RBA. Now, a whole lot of other commentators are coming out on the day now that there's been an official inquiry and review with, well done, the Federal Treasurer, to have two senior independents with central bank experience from Canada and Great Britain involved in a panel of three to review the RBA, and they have found that it needs the massive overhaul I've personally been advocating since 2009, 2010, when the RBA greatly mismanaged the GFC response and actually hiked interest rates 3 times during the GFC when other central banks were already cutting rates. It was so patently inept, it was amazing. And so then they followed up with 100-point rate cuts again and again and again and claimed they were rescuing the Australian economy. In actual fact, during that period, exports grew by 16%, or the GDP component of our mining industry and agricultural industry grew by 16%, but New South Wales and Victoria actually suffered recessions brought about by the RBA's aggressive rate hikes in the middle of the GFC. So, this mismanagement, which became so obvious even to everyone sitting at home across Australia during the pandemic and shortly after, that they'd kept interest rates too low for too long. Everyone knew that. And then I said at the time, it's a great misjudgment to think that we're not going to have the global inflation wave hit Australia. And I said at the time, it's a gross mismanagement to be leaving interest rates at crisis levels when there was already a post-COVID economic boom occurring. They still kept interest rates at crisis levels. It was a nonsense. It was a popularity biased strategy to just be popular among home buyers and everyone to keep rates cheap for everyone to party on. And it creates a roller coaster economic cycle thereafter, where it sucked forward out of the future economic activity that would normally be occurring now, happened a year, 2 years ago because of those low interest rates and government stimulus as well, but particularly the low interest rates. And everyone went out and overspent and overinvested in property, and now the property market's having one of its sharpest corrections in history in Australia. Now, the ineptitude, the mistakes, they were apparent in real time. There is no hindsighting in this. In real time, reasonable observers could judge they were making tremendous errors. And yet there was very little critique of the RBA in the Australian financial community. In fact, unlike every other major Western economy with a central bank, it was very striking how little critique of the central bank occurred from Australia's major banks. And this is how they let down the Australian public, because this contributed to the long-term mismanagement of the interest rate structure and therefore the Australian economy, which now probably has us headed for a recession in the second half of this year. And if not a recession, a long period of subdued economic growth. And really, it's very much not just a factor of overseas conflicts or geopolitical tensions or what's happening in the US. It's very much a function of our Reserve Bank not being good at the job. So the review has come out and had 51 recommendations. Among them, a secondary board, which actually makes the interest rate decision, not the governor, not the first board. And it is highly likely the current governor will not have his term renewed shortly in a few months' time. So it'll be bye-bye to Governor Lowe, who by his namesake, seemed to want to keep rates low no matter what. A big mistake and a great disservice to the Australian people. At last, we now have the chance of clever, intelligent, rational monetary policy decisions to be made going forward. One of the other changes is that it's recommended, and I think all of these things will be adopted, that there's 3 or 4 less RBA meetings a year, that these meetings consider far more fully the ramifications and the realities of the economic situation, that it isn't just an internally RBA-driven policy decision. Those days are gone, and thank goodness. It's a real relief, actually, and a little gratifying as one of Australia's most outspoken critiques of the RBA, not just to, I mean, if they were doing a great job, I would have been one of the most outspoken applauders of the RBA, but they weren't. They were doing a very bad job and over a very long period of time, and often their analysis did not match contemporary economic thinking elsewhere in the world. So now that Australia can have perhaps more enlightened monetary policy moving forward, perhaps the recession won't be as deep as it might have been. Perhaps there won't be as many RBA hikes as there otherwise would have been. So there's going to be a lot of changes taking place. There's going to be an expert panel to decide monetary policy going forward, and that expert panel is going to be drawn from outside the bank, as well as listening to the arguments for various decisions from within the bank. And this is a great movement forward. The days when the Reserve Bank was actually a fantastic institution were the days when the governor was actually appointed from outside the bank. And this is something I've been calling for some time. So we may see that this now begins to occur at the very next governor appointment. But certainly the fact that you have an external expert panel to decide on interest rate settings, that is akin to the old appoint from outside the bank. So this is all that I've been calling for some 10, 12 years, and it's great to see. And it's great to see that this inquiry and review now allows so many other economists and strategists out there, commentators out there, who had previously remained silent on the RBA so as not to offend the institution, are now feeling more free to speak. And we're seeing a lot of people come out of the closet, so to speak, to say what they really think about the RBA. And that is great to see, because this country has seriously lacked constructive critique of our central bank and monetary policy in the past. And it looks like that era has now come to pass. And I congratulate the current government for conducting the review that is bringing about all these badly needed changes for the Reserve Bank of Australia. Thanks very much. Clifford Bennett, Chief Economist, ACY Securities.